Welcome to the inaugural episode of Destiny Underground. This might be episode 1, more than likely will be the pilot. It's going to be our pre-release episode. I am here. My name is Rob Thackeray. You might know me from the Towers Underground podcast or the football podcast I do with Brandon. I'm at PBnLadiez on Twitter, and I'm also actually at PBnLadiez on PlayStation, so that'll be a good way to find me.
I'm Zach. I'm also Zach on PlayStation, but it's not spelled like that. It's XAQUE with an underscore, because I'm really cool like that.
Yeah, he had to feel special. To be fair, my gamer tag also has or my handle also has a Z at the end, because I needed to be more edgy.
Yeah. XX.
Decided to do this Destiny podcast because this is something that we both enjoy. It's something that we both really go into, and we do a lot in our free time. We're actually Destiny 1 players, something that we've been doing since basically the inauguration of Destiny. I've been playing since like the first week. Actually didn't really get into like the end game type stuff until I met Zach you'd say before the House of Wolves expansion in the year 1, but
yeah, about a month before House of Wolves dropped.
So that's actually how we met. We met online through Destiny, just to show how you can make lasting friends through the community. We've known each other for a couple years now, and now we're doing a podcast about Destiny.
Yeah. I was playing, it's a funny story, I was playing with my friend Wesley, we were doing a strike, and it was Sepix, and it was the weekly, back when level 26 weekly was a thing for strange coins.
Yeah, back when you had to do strikes for strange coins.
Yeah,
You know?
it was like the only way. We got to Sepix, and Rob was the random that we had gotten, and we're just shooting and dying and wiping and shooting and wiping, and this guy's not on mic, and we're switching back and forth from team and fire team voice chat over and over, and he just won't get on mic. And we're in his fire team chat, and he switches over, but he's not talking, and I'm like, well, we have no ammo, we can't do anything, and then he just says, well, if you just wait a couple seconds, you'll get ammo magically. And I was like, what are you talking about? I had no idea that the game just pulled ammo if you had none. And then we beat the boss and friended each other.
In-game mechanic where, this is something that they kept in. I don't know if it's something they're going to keep in Destiny. But on the longer strikes, the ones that you weren't necessarily supposed to be leveled for, if you just like sat in a corner, as long as you were killing things, it was dropping ammo even if you didn't see it. And if you ran out of ammo on 2 of your 3 guns and then started to waste ammo on that 3rd gun, it would just pull all your ammo. And actually somebody told me that in a similar situation, so I was just like, spread the love, man.
Yeah, it was helpful.
But yeah, I mean, that's how we ended up playing weekly, playing pretty regularly, became friends, played a good amount of Taken King together, cleared Oryx together, played Rise of Iron, all the expansions before that, and then up to that, and then cleared that first raid. So I mean, most of what we do is generally going to be PvE, and most of what we talk about is going to generally be PvE, but we do, mainly me, but we do generally do some PvP as well. We're actually in a clan together. It's a very small clan. It's just us and a couple friends. I think it's called the Ascended Super Saiyans.
Yeah, we can have like a link or something maybe.
Yeah, we'll post
the text of the name.
We'll post the link to our clan on Bungie in case you want to go check us out. We plan, because we know a lot of stuff in Destiny 2 is going to be changing. One things that we're excited for as far as clan stuff is that they're going to be doing guided games now.
Oh,
so
yes.
We're going to be trying to ingratiate ourselves with that kind of stuff and help people, because I mean, that's how like me and you met. We've met a lot of pretty cool people just by talking to them. So even if we're not like the best players out there, we tend to be pretty good communicators between ourselves, pretty tactical. We like to know the tactics of the end game content. So this is something that we could help people who aren't necessarily adept at finding people, because a lot of the big problems that happened, or a big issue that was prevalent through the original Destiny 1, is that there was no in-game matchmaking for in-game content. And I understand why, they did that. So you didn't just have like randoms like matching up and not really communicating or not understanding the mechanics of the higher level stuff, but at the
Here's
same
the
time,
thing
it
with
really
that though, because when you LFG anyway, because everybody LFG, because not many people have 6 friends consistently playing a game like Destiny, you
yeah
may as well get randoms because you guys have to learn how to communicate anyway. You have to figure each other out, figure out the playstyles, and then it takes 2, 3 hours to do a raid that you could beat in 45 minutes when you're, consistent. So it didn't
yeah
really solve any of those problems.
yeah. And I mean, the community's been really great about creating ways to communicate without using the in-game matchmaking, because Bungie didn't end up adding anything to support it, and I was hoping that they would add something to support it in Destiny 2, but I don't think that's going to be going down. The guided games is something to where they can kind of do a little bit of both, but they're not actually going to have like an in-game matchmaking or an
Speaking
in-game
of
like
that,
pick up or look for group.
when I played the PC beta, there is text chat, which is totally not fair.
I mean, that's something that I think is that in and of itself can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah,
Truthfully,
especially if it works when you're like out in the field, like in PvE. If anybody in the instance can see your text chat.
yeah. I mean, that'd be super helpful. One thing that I really wish that they would have put in is like a radio wheel for emotes, or a radio wheel
Oh my
for
god.
like little comments like "Hey, looking for group," or like looking for this, or like like 4 or 5, maybe up to like 8 different options that they could put in that you could like pop up, and like if you're in like X social space. Probably in Destiny 1's case, more than likely the tower could have been the Reef or the Iron Temple, depending on where you're at. But in Destiny 2, it's probably going to be the farm, unless they add new stuff in. But you just pop it up and say like, "Hey, I'm looking for this," and then anybody who like noticed it, because it'd be above your head, and you would just be walking around. Anybody who noticed it would just like see you and be like, "Oh, they're looking for this. Let me help them."
Yeah.
You know.
A radial
So
menu for emotes would have been a day one buy for me. Um, Absolutely, because you buy all these cool emotes and then you can only use one at a time. That's garbage. Garbage. But um, guided games, I like sherpaing people. There was this infamous time where we were doing Oryx and we had this random guy from LFG who was way too drunk to be doing Oryx, and everybody was like, "We should kick this guy," and I was like, "No, I'm having fun. I just want to see how far we can get." I mean, it was bad enough that it took like an hour to get to the exotic chest with the giant dick pistons that launch you off the map. And it got to the point where we just had to tell him the chest didn't spawn, and he was drunk enough to believe it, so we could move on to daughters. So when it comes to
I
sherpaing people, I think our clan is definitely high tolerance. I mean, we'll get through it eventually.
I just like the visual image for anybody who doesn't like have firsthand experience, because when you said dick pistons, I was like, oh, like, I mean, it does look like dick pistons. To be fair, it's the closest thing. But somebody without actual experience would be like, dick pistons? What the fuck is a dick piston?
I probably
it,
just
it's a
convinced a
literal
lot of
dick
people to
piston.
buy the game.
Well, yeah. So we're pretty versed in it. Not like the best players, but we do play a lot. This is something of a passion for both of us. I personally play a Titan most of the time, but near the end of both, actually year 1, year 2, and then not really towards year 3, but trying to get the Triumph book, I ended up playing a lot. I played a lot of Hunter actually, so like I'm definitely a Titan main, but I have a really close relationship, or a secondary relationship, with the Hunter class, and I actually really enjoy playing that as well.
Yeah, I also main a Titan. We're Titan brothers. But I made my alternate Warlock before I knew how bad the jump was. But I stuck with it and I played the Warlock, and I had this secondary Warlock that I brought up. And I had a Hunter, but it's like level 25 still, I think. And it's the only trophy I don't have for Destiny is to fully level up a Hunter subclass. So I'm not really a Hunter player at all. But I can say, playing Destiny 2, that the Warlock jump is finally decent. You can control it a lot better. I didn't play a hunter in Destiny 2's beta. I know Rob did, so he might be able to say something about it. I could talk a
It
lot more
plays
about Titans though.
it plays essentially the same. Like from what I got as far as like a movement based, I didn't really play a lot of the warlock. I played more of the titan and the hunter just because that's where I feel comfortable at and that's what I enjoy. But yeah, I mean you're looking at the beta because I know you're playing the beta on PC. We
Yeah.
both played the beta together on PlayStation 4. And that's generally where we're going to be. If anybody was questioning or had any sort of comments about that, like we're generally going to be on PlayStation 4 playing the game because that's the home of Destiny.
Exclusive content.
But yeah, I mean it's interesting, like the way that the beta actually ended up dropping. There was a lot more content as far as like exploration
Then I
than I
thought,
thought there were going to be,
yeah, like when they
especially just in
announced
the
just a strike, I was like, oh, I mean, that's cool, but I didn't think we'd really be able to do anything.
yeah, we were looking at this basically through the prism that was Destiny 1
Oh
because
man.
the strikes, and this is something that they've said that they've wanted to improve, but the strikes in Destiny 2 are all going to be like a miniature adventure or a miniature journey. And that's really awesome because the one strike that they had us play was like a Cabal Vex sort of mashup where you had a lot of Cabal at the beginning and you were like breaking
There was
into
some
their
Fallen
base.
in there too.
Yeah, there was Fallen actually fighting in like almost like a neutral zone. So there was a huge amount of variety in enemy types, which is one thing that Destiny 1 had an issue with, where it was essentially like fight guy with gun, fight more guy with gun, like do waves of enemies,
A
you
lot more
know.
platforming in this new strike too.
Yeah, fight more guys with guns and then fight big boss until he dies. It was essentially just like shoot at things a lot until you get there, but there was platforming involved in this. There's different types of enemies that you had to really get used to. The way they're incorporating some of like, I don't want to call them like mini bosses or sub bosses, but there's like
Heavies,
the like,
right?
yeah, like the tougher guys. There's these guys who have like yellow health bars, and they're really interesting
And I
because
can say with the yellow health bars, since the PC beta is a newer build, they are
mhm.
guaranteed to drop power ammo, which alleviates a lot of the shotgun and snipers being in a power slot now, because there's consistent power ammo drops the entire time you're playing the game now.
Yeah, that's another thing that we actually haven't really talked about. But Destiny 2 is gonna have it's gonna change up the complete way that that we're used to playing the game because a lot of and we can't help ourselves from doing this, but we're gonna have to get out of that mode of like looking at things through Destiny 1's prism. So we're gonna get basically a completely new game,
I mean, yeah,
even
my
more.
tactic. Rob is the survivor, defender titan, and I was the guy that played a striker all the way up until House of Woes released. It took until Prison of Elders for me to realize how much a defender titan was invaluable. But my go-to tactic was, oh, a boss has an eighth of a bar of health. It's time to run up with my shotgun and see if I can kill him before he stomps on me and kills me. Now I can't do that really because my shotgun. I mean, I'm giving up a rocket launcher essentially to use a shotgun in Destiny 2.
Yes, Destiny 2 weapons are built in different areas because Destiny 1 you had primary, secondary, which your primary would be stuff like auto rifles, scout rifles, pulse rifles, hand cannons. Secondary being shotguns, sniper rifles, and fusion rifles, which was like a built-up coil, like energy weapon, and then your third slot, which was like your heavy, which was machine guns and rocket launchers, and then later on it was like fusion rifles or like a special fusion rifle that they added that ended up being very good. But they're changing it now to where it's like you have primary kinetic weapons, which also fit into that primary class. You have secondary energy weapons, which are supposed to be better at taking down shields. So like shielded enemies, that's what you want to use on them. And then you have power ammo or like the power weapons, which can be shotguns, they can be sniper rifles, they can be fusion rifles, they can be linear fusion rifles. It could be rocket launchers, it could be heavy machine guns, they can be grenade launchers. So you have a lot of variety in what you're wanting to do.
And what's
But it
funny,
creates
it's weird because playing Destiny from the beginning, we always had, once you reached endgame, your primary weapons were elemental. You get a weapon from the raid. You got Vision of Confluence, and it was solar, so you could just destroy things. And then Luke Smith directed Taken King, and primary elemental weapons were gone completely. There was only one, and it was the Zalo Supercell, which was an arc uh, machine gun. And now they're still gone, except the secondary slot has primaries in it as well as other things. So you could have a kinetic scout rifle and then press triangle to switch to a solar auto rifle. So it's going to be really interesting. They reward you for that. It wasn't in the console beta, but in the PC beta, if you take an enemy shield down with that element instead of just burning through or plowing through without it, it explodes, and an area of effect damage will damage any enemies nearby the shield. So it rewards you for matching archetypes and actually strategizing around it, which Destiny 1, there was never any reason to really do that. Just to take their shield down faster, maybe, but you never had to do it.
No, it was more of just a like, I don't want to spend as much time doing this, so like I have this on me, so I'm just gonna do this. But most of the time, it was just like I'm gonna keep fight. Like that's what Destiny 1 was a lot of, and the reason why, why we love it is because it's such a mechanically tight game. But it was a lot of just like shoot this thing in front of me until it dies.
Yeah.
And that's that's what you essentially did with that. But here, they're kind of, I don't want to say forcing you, but the rewarding strategy, like you were saying. So that's really cool. I like how they're doing that with Destiny 2. Kind of want to go back because we didn't really talk about our subclasses or our preferences on that. But yeah, I mean, like I generally play a Titan. I'm generally going to play more of a support class more than anything else. And I like to the last man standing moniker is usually gonna go to me because I'm gonna play farther back than most people, just so we don't lose any sort of progress or anything like that on what we happen to be doing.
Yeah, wiping sucks.
Yeah, I happen to play more of a support class. Now that doesn't mean I don't like dealing damage or anything like that, but helping the team and helping a thing is what I like to do, and that's kind of why I picked up the Hunter mainly really heavily after Taken King, because they got the Void
the
class.
bow, yeah, I forgot all about that. I've been playing
so that's
much
a lot of the
Destiny
reason.
2 beta and it's not in there.
And I think you said that they're going to be including those classes in the game, even though they weren't in the beta. They're actually going to be in the game. So
yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but basically, you'll have to find them out in the world. Like you'll have to find an item or something that will let you relearn that power, because those subclasses in the lore were not from the light to begin with. So even though our light's gone, I have a feeling they might be the first subclasses we get after Gaul or Gary steals our light, because they're not using the light.
And I think this actually here is a good opportunity to talk about what we might expect or might want from the game, just because, like you were saying, we might have to go out and find those, and it's very possible that now that we are separated from the Traveler, that we don't have our light, that now these might be like our main subclasses because they aren't like gifted by the Traveler, which is really cool. So I know there was a lot of like a week-ish ago, there was like a European Dead Zone leak, and they ended up releasing a trailer a couple days after that. But just based on that, I've been trying to like quell myself on the inside, but the hype I think is pretty real for
I
this
still
game.
haven't watched any of the European Dead Zone stuff.
It's pretty hard to find. If you guys can find it out there, it's really interesting.
No, GameSpot released an hour-and-a-half gameplay footage of the European Dead Zone.
Oh, did they? Okay,
Yeah,
it was
I just
probably
haven't
ripped
watched
from
it.
that. But yeah, I mean that was leaked before, and it was fantastic. I haven't watched the bigger one, but before that, like just based on what we had seen in the beta in terms of exploration, that was something that was really important. That Zach and I really wanted more of was exploration in the world, finding things in nooks and crannies and being rewarded for looking out of place.
I mean, to call back on that, back in Destiny 1, probably 25% of our time was spent just trying to glitch through walls and find areas and because we just wanted more and more exploration. I mean, we had this game where we'd see who could find the ghosts first, or who could find the calcified fragments first. I had more ghosts. Rob had more fragments and Siva clusters at the end of it, but stuff like that. And then the lore. The lore is fantastic in Destiny, but you had to go to a website, log in, and then read it on there. I don't like that. I want to live in the world and breathe it. And
Yeah,
hopefully
that's
Destiny 2 does that with the little adventures they have planned.
yeah. I mean, things like the lost sectors are going to be like miniature adventures. We talked a little bit about the strikes and how they want those set up to where it's going to be like platformings, and all the bosses are meant to be like big multi-stage events. So I mean, the game itself is going to tell a story while you're playing it, and the game, despite or the game while you're not playing it, is also going like the story from what I've seen, like the adventure, the campaign, whatever you might want to call it. It's looking like it's going to be something that's going to be pretty good. I mean, it's looking like such a large, such a grand thing that you can't even compare it to anything that wasn't Destiny 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a far cry away from it.
I mean, just preloading it today, the install size is nearly more than double what Destiny 1 was at launch. And sure, Destiny 1's bigger now, but you have to think you have 3 years of expansions and live events, and while the live events maybe added 2 or 3 gigs, they didn't really add much to the gameplay. We never even really played them. They just didn't have anything to do. But with Destiny 2, I honestly don't expect too much from the main story because we all know what's going to happen. We know exactly how it's going to end. But I want
It,
more lore.
yeah,
So that's what I'm excited for.
I don't. In terms of what I expect from the story, I'm not necessarily sure, because this definitely looks to be more character driven than the other ones were. Because because you can't even count really the first Destiny story as anything. But say you take the Taken King and you take Rise of Iron, both of those were like large extinction scale type events. Where this
Yeah.
one, despite you like losing the light and losing the traveler, like this seems to be like a story of like personal perseverance and
It's
like a couple
tonally different
characters.
too.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know if you've seen the live action trailer that dropped today. It's a beautiful trailer, but compare it to the live action trailer we got for Destiny 1, and you can see how Destiny 1 was like trying to build up this grand galaxy spanning quest, and it had Led Zeppelin playing, and you just did all this all these cool sights, and the three classes were running around, and then this one is overlaid with Cade being funny the whole time. So I'm thinking it's gonna gear more towards that, which I don't really like. I mean, I love Nathan Fillion, but I like the more grand, serious scope of Destiny. So I'm thinking in the lore I might be able to get that. I want to hear more about Osiris and more about, who was the first Hammer Titan and stuff like that.
I definitely think we're gonna get a lot of that. But as far as like the main story, I think it's definitely gonna be more character driven with like Zavala and Ikora and Cade and Shax and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm expecting. And I mean, if they can deliver on that, and they can deliver on exploration, those are the two big things that Destiny 1, I don't want to say lack, but when I was like looking at it and I was like, if you gave me more of that, then like this game's fantastic, you know?
I mean, look
And
at Destiny 1's golden chests. Like, when you
yeah,
looked in the director, it said 0 of 5, and you're like, oh man, I wonder, like, what are those? They have to be hidden in the world, right? And then you find them, and it doesn't matter when you find them, they're garbage green starting gear. Like, there's no point to finding them other than to check that off of your list. You don't even get a trophy for it. So there
yeah, and I
wasn't
think,
any reward to exploring anything in Destiny except maybe a level question monster that you couldn't kill.
yeah, and even after a certain point, like you got to like God tier mode and you just ran through everything.
Yeah.
So I really do like how they're rewarding exploration. They're really putting in a bunch of things for every type of player they have. Like they're putting in, and I expect there to be like tons of loot, lots of different lots of different like builds with the way that exotics are gonna work now. They're building in like lost sectors for people who like exploration. The story is gonna be fantastic from what it looks like for people who want like a real story out of this. We haven't seen much as
Right.
far as the end game content, which is interesting. Usually they drop like a raid trailer or something, but we've heard nothing about that.
I don't know how much
And
you want to
that's
talk about leaks, or spoilers. I guess we could like say spoiler warning, but there was a leak of trophy, so we do have the raid name based on a trophy leak, which is interesting because
Is it
it's
is it Gary's demise?
it's called Leviathan. It says clear Leviathan on prestige difficulty, which is new. Prestige wasn't in the game, but there's leaked concept art, or it's not leaked. It's actual concept art for Destiny 2, but it shows like a almost planet-sized object, and there's like this giant looking like whale monster looking thing in the in space sucking this planet up with like a big open mouth, and people think that's the Leviathan, that's the raid. And just recently in the PC beta, somebody was doing glitches as we do in the skybox. They were able to see some of the skybox for a zone you can't get to in the Destiny 2 beta, and that whale is
Right.
in the sky on Nessus. So
That's
our raid
interesting.
might be a gigantic space whale that we have to climb into and destroy it.
That's really cool. I mean, I'd like to hear that from a lore or explain from a lore standpoint. If they can include just, I don't want to say a tiny bit of story, but if they can weave a bit of a story into like end game content like the
Yes,
raid,
yes,
that
we
would be
need that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Because the one issue that I had, if I was going to take one thing away from Taken King, is that at the end of the story you fight Oryx, you beat
Mm-hmm.
him, blah blah blah. At the end of the raid you fight Oryx too, but you never really get like a feeling of like he's gonna come and get me. Like he's just a big thing.
Yeah,
At
he
the
just
end. It was
showed up. He
cool.
doesn't even talk. I mean, he talked in the story of Taken King.
Yeah,
And then you fight him in his like ultimate immortal realm, and he doesn't say anything to you at all. So there's like a disconnect there. All of the raids had that problem.
of a disconnect between like story and or
Yeah.
like exposition and what you were doing. And if you looked and you actually like read the lore that was on the game or on the site, you knew what was happening. But I think that's something that should be more readily available and more present for people who are playing just regularly like through the game. You
Do
shouldn't
you
have to go and
think
search
that
out.
they did that with the raids? Because Vault of Glass wasn't connected to the story in any way originally, but do you think
Yes.
that after that they didn't connect it because only 50% of the players were doing the raids? Do you think maybe they didn't want people to miss out on what little bit of story there was?
There's a possibility that that what is, but that's not what I think it is. I think it's because the raid team is usually like sequestered away from the
Right.
rest of the team, and they're making something. So like after a certain point in a development cycle, you just don't have time to add that kind of shit. So like if something changes on like Destiny 2 story side, and you're like building a raid, like you just gotta build the raid you're building, man. Like
What's
so I think that's
interesting, speaking of raids, if Leviathan is the raid we get, I want to know what happened to the Cabal raid on Mars that got scrapped. Maybe we get
yeah,
two raids?
that would be. I mean, that would be revolutionary.
That would be ideal. I mean, that would instantly set it apart from Destiny 1. I mean, they don't even have to come out on the same time, they could be time gated, but the fact that you're getting two raids in the base game could set a huge bar for Destiny 2's expansions and stuff going forward. I mean, they
Yeah.
really have to do better in every possible way because Destiny 1 got so much hate, and Bungie's not a 7 out of 10 studio. They just aren't, so they have to prove that they're not.
Yeah, and I mean, there's only technically three end game raids. You might want to count like the Prison of Elders as like the
Right.
the end game content, but I think my personal my personal favorite probably was King's Fall.
Yeah, it was so complicated, but like in a good way.
And I mean, that's followed closely by the Vault of Glass because the Vault of Glass is just so fun to do.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it got to a point in Vault of Glass where if anybody that knows the mechanics, I mean, me and Rob would go in and we'd have the other four people with us, and when you're about to fight Atheon, but you have to kill the gatekeeper first, I'd be like, alright guys, you guys kill the gatekeeper, I'm gonna go right, Rob's gonna go left. And we would just go into the portals and kill the second gatekeepers ourselves, get the relics, come out, and then we'd be done with the section. And they're like, wait, weren't we supposed to split off? I was like, no, that takes too long. So we would just do it, and the fact that we could do that, that was awesome. Just the
yeah, I
fact
mean,
that you could play with it like that.
what's great about like the PvE end game content is that like there's a preferred way that you can do things, but if you know a better way or know a way that works for you, you can just do it. And I think that's something that is really rewarding for players, is that they reward you for thinking. And I mean that's a lot of the reason, apart from it being like a mechanically tight shooter, it's a lot of the reason why I was attracted to Destiny, is because it rewards critical thinking at times.
Speaking
So
of, before we end it, Titans have a new shield that recharges every 30 seconds. That it can be a full shield, or it can be a half shield that you can crouch in. And most people didn't even know in Destiny 1, if you crouched behind a low wall and pulled the aiming trigger, you'd automatically aim over the wall. Well, now they're using that mechanic with the half shield. When you're aiming over it, when you come back down, it automatically reloads your gun. But couple that with the Warlocks. They have a healing or empowering rift now that they can drop, and it's in a circle. So they can stand behind the Titan and drop that while the Titan puts out his shield, and suddenly you instantly have cooperative gameplay that you never had in Destiny 1 with just a simple button press.
yeah, I mean the way that they've looks like they've built the subclasses to work more closely together. Like it just looks like they, and it sucks that like it says this, but like Destiny 1 was almost like a 3-year long beta for Destiny 2, and like this looks like the game that they had to find their footing and like know what they wanted to do and really know what they wanted to get across. And now that they've like honed it in, I think this will be like what should have been out in the first place.
It could be a
So
negative connotation, though, to say that it's a 3 year long beta, because I don't regret any of my time with Destiny.
no,
I
I
mean, I
had
have 1,000 hours, at least, probably more than 1,000 hours in it. I mean, we played it a shit ton, and we had good memories, and we had good time, and we ended up getting, by the end of it, more of our friends that played consistently, and we had a group on Facebook, and we all, talked shit to each other, whatever. I mean, it wasn't ever the best game out there, and there were definitely times where we just didn't play for months at a time, but when we did play, it was never not fun.
yeah, I mean the game, as much as it is about gameplay, it's also about community. And I mean that's kind of why we're doing this, is just to reach back out to the community. And if you guys enjoy this, like you can listen, you can let us know how we're doing. This is going to go up more than likely on YouTube. So we're going to put also some gameplay clips on this. We're going to do this every week for about 35 minutes, depending on how long we go. We might go a little bit longer, depending on how much we have to talk about. We probably will run long in the first little while, just because there's going to be so
Yeah.
much to consume.
The next time we do
Um,
this, the game will be out, so we'll definitely have a
yes,
lot to talk about.
this is kind of like our pre-release episode. So we're going to try and give you an update every week on like where we are, what loot we've got, what our characters look like,
Where you
what
can
we've
find
been
Hung
doing.
Jury,
Yeah.
why you
um,
shouldn't pick up Hung Jury because it made Destiny really stale.
possible possible like leaks or glitches that we might have seen that you can look at, anything that like speculation towards new in-game content, new content.
This will be
So we're
cool
gonna
for
try
me
and
because, speaking of Hung Jury, I, found it, never used anything else. I'm going to try to use a different gun each week just so I have a new gun to talk about. So I'm gonna be playing different than I have before, and that's kind of exciting for me.
yeah, I mean it's just the hype is real. The
Yeah.
hype is real. So I want to thank everybody on here for listening. If you
Before we
guys
go,
did,
what's the biggest thing you want to see, since we're gonna get the game in a couple days? What are you
the
most looking
biggest.
forward to? I'm most looking forward to just how big European Dead Zone really is. Because I don't think we're going to leave it. I mean, we're not going to have that much time to play. I think all of our time next week will probably be in the EDZ, unless we just plow through the story, which I hope we can't.
My biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is probably like you said with Hung Jury, different guns, because a lot of the issue with the way that Destiny's gun meta went is that eventually everybody figured out, and they broke it down on like a real analytical, a real mathematical level, what guns were better at doing what. And like you just it got kind of stale doing the same thing over and over. So I mean, if they're able to balance it to where like you don't like you can have like a couple guns that do the same thing, but
Mm-hmm.
they're all going to play differently, and the way you like set up your classes differently. So I'm just really excited to like have something, one, to have something new to play that is familiar, but it's that newness of like, I have to use this new gun and I have to like learn how to play. So, I mean, the new guns, I guess, would probably be the one that I'm the most excited for, truthfully.
Well, I'm sure you're gonna get plenty of those as we go through our white and blue and green gear.
One can hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once we go forward, we're gonna be trying to follow a similar format. You'll probably see pictures of our guardians going forward. We're going to be findable, like we said. I'm PBnLadiez across almost every platform that you'll see me. So I'm pretty easy to find on social media or anywhere else. So you can look us up. We're gonna drop a link to our clan on the site, which you can go and find. It's towersunderground.com if you're listening to this on YouTube. And I think Zach is kind of weird because he's split between a couple things.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I mean, if you want to, you can go to YouTube and find Devil Dig, and you could actually see how we played Destiny 1, because I have a couple clips on there. But other than that, I don't really have anything you can go and find and look for. If that changes, I'll let you guys know.
All right. I want to thank you guys. This has been Pilot Episode 1, and we'll see you next week, and have fun playing Destiny.
Yeah, we will be.
Bye.